What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you all doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Phenomenal Views. I, of course, am your host, Nick Smith, and this is my review for my very first ever Stephen King book, The Shining. Now, like I said, this is the very first Stephen King book I have ever read. I'm glad that I went with this one before I read anything else, because I do want to eventually read the sequel to this, Dr. Sleep, or Carrie, because those things really interest me, but this one I have been wanting to read for a long time, especially after I watched the movie. So I'm going to go into a little bit of spoiler territory. If you do not want to know what happens in this book, or the scares in this book, or things I'm going to go over, please leave the video if you do not want things to be spoiled for you. Okay, for those who went and read the book, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that what I'm getting ready to talk about you like. For those who are staying, thank you for staying. Let's dive right into it. So, The Shining is the book about where Stephen King went to a motel. I forget what it is called, but it's where he got his inspiration for this book. He went into a dining hall, and then him and his wife seen a party of ghosts and stuff in this one hotel, which inspired Stephen King to write the book of The Shining. The Shining is about Jack Torrance, his wife Wendy, and his son Danny, who are going to stay at the Overlook Hotel to monitor it and watch it until it starts back. Now, it closes down because they don't have enough money to keep the snow cleared, because where they're at, where the hotel is, the snow is brutal. The snow is horrible, and so they don't have enough money to keep the snow plows to basically keep the snow clear. So the hotel closes for a few months, and then it opens back up again. And so Jack is being hired to watch and take care of it until it opens back up again. Well, when the very first time that they get to the motel, things are going really good, but slowly and surely things start to go bad. We get a lot of good characters in this book. We have Danny, who is a very smart child who has the shining ability and basically able to not only see the future, but also can kind of read people's minds, and he can also talk to people telenetically, especially with his friend Dick, who talks to him about the shining ability and knows that he has it, and basically explains that the Bible says it's called having visions, and he basically explains like what happens whenever someone tries to contact him, or how he could talk to his grandmother. He talks about that there are some things in the motel, but they're like pages in a book. As long as you close your eyes and say they're not there, they will not hurt you. But as time goes on, these things eventually do start to be able to hurt you. And even Dick experiences that as well when he comes back to the Overlook Hotel. Character-wise, Danny is a very good character. Jack is an awesome character. Wendy is a very sympathetic character. And what I mean by that is, in the book, she loves her husband, she loves her son, but she has a big inner conflict with both of them. And what I mean by that is because of where she can never understand why she could never have so much luck with Danny when he was a baby, whereas Jack would be able to make Danny fall asleep like that, or anything like that, and she could just never understand why he was a better parent than her. She could never understand, and so like she would have this conflict in her head, and she would talk about how maybe I need to go back to my mother's, and that was another thing, is that she refuses to be like her mother, and whenever someone said you're just like her mother, she would go off. And because her mother would be like, you're never going to be right, you're always going to come crawling back to me, and it put an emotional toll on her, and so it made for a very interesting character read. I strongly recommend that you read this book because it's got some very interesting characters. The atmosphere is terrifying, especially with the scares. One scare particularly I find relatable to me is because one scare that happens in this book, a lot of the scares actually happen on the floor of where room 217 is. So when Danny's walking on the hall, which Danny has actually been tempted to go into room 217, but he ignores it, but eventually, curiosity gets the better of him, and he goes into room 217. But when he is on the hall of room 217, he walks by the fire hose. Now, I liked how Stephen King wrote with this scare, is because it's all kind of mind games, and especially how scares are for kids, because when Danny walks by the fire hose head falls off. But he's like, it's just a fire hose. It's not like a snake or anything. It couldn't hurt me. But he puts that doubt in his mind, and it starts to mess with him. And like when I was a kid, I was afraid to be left by myself in my best friend's backyard because there was woods right beside of them, and because I loved dinosaurs, but I was afraid of them. I would be afraid to be left there because I was afraid that something would come out and chase me. So I would just start running and running and running, and in the back of my head I would be like, something is chasing me, I cannot turn back, all I gotta do is just get inside, I just gotta get inside, or I just gotta get safe. And so, Danny starts getting a little scared, and he jumps over the fire hose, and then he starts running, but when he starts running, he hears it chase after him. And so it makes you think, oh man, is this thing really chasing him, or is it not? And then when he gets to the stairs, he's like, I could easily go and pick up that fire hose, but then he's just like, no, I was like, do not go back to that fire hose, because it will kill you. But yeah, it was a very, very good scare, and that, like I said, that related to me, and I thought it was done great. The atmosphere of the house is also very intimidating, especially when it comes time to where Jack finds the information about the Overlook Hotel. Jack is a writer who got fired from his teaching job because of where he snapped on a kid, and he almost killed him, or he beat the crap out of this kid. So he's trying to get going as a writer. He's writing a play. But when he's down in the basement of the Overlook Hotel, which is where he spends a lot of his time, because he has to look over the boiler to make sure it doesn't explode. So he's in the basement of the Overlook Hotel, and he finds all this information that gets him starting on his second work, called The History of the Overlook Hotel. Now, he gets this idea, but he actually never starts writing it, because he calls the hotel owner and, talks about how, I want to make this a story, but Hallorann doesn't want to hear from him. He does not like Jack, and so he's like, do not start writing something. I will sue your butt, pretty much. And he ends up getting in trouble with his friend Al, who got him the job in the first place, and he's like, please, I want you to abandon this. He does it, and he starts looking at more, but unfortunately he never gets to writing on it. But I found that so interesting, because the more he learns about the Overlook Hotel, the more the hotel starts to take an interest to him as well. And the hotel itself feels like a character. It feels like a really good character. It feels like it's pulling strings of all these characters, especially with Danny and Jack. Because where Jack is wanting to, provide for his family, the hotel starts to take over, and it starts showing him things. But the things that Jack sees, he refuses to acknowledge that he has seen them. And so it creates for a lot of arguments between him and Wendy, when Wendy tries to tell him, we might need to leave. This place is horrible. This place is bad. We might need to leave. But Jack is like, look, there's nothing here. I have seen nothing, even though he has seen the hedge animals. The thing that happened to him in room 217, which I'm not going to spoil that because that is such a terrifying scene. When the ghosts start talking to him and they start getting him to drink, which I always wondered, was he actually drinking? But then we come to find out there is some cooking cherry in the hotel, which is practically fortified wine. So, Jack starts going crazier and crazier, and eventually it leads up to where he starts chasing after his family and quoting, take your medicine. I'm going to take your medicine. And when he starts attacking Wendy and when he starts attacking Danny, the final showdown between him and Danny is very tense, because you wonder, is Jack really going to kill his son? And Danny keeps saying to Jack, you are not my dad. My dad would never hurt me. I know that you are just a creature. And throughout the whole entire book, Jack is seeing all these things, and he's this quote, time to unmask. It's time to unmask. And so eventually, when Danny says, you are not my dad, Jack takes a croquet mallet and whacks himself in the face with it, revealing part of a creature that Danny's seen earlier, the Dog Man, which is a very suspenseful scene as it's in itself, some of the ghosts of the hotel. And when eventually Jack snaps out of it and says, just run away. I want you to run away and remember that I love you. And the whole thing with the hotel ends with them eventually getting away, but unfortunately them losing Jack, because Jack was not going to kill his family. But eventually these things do follow him. These things do follow Danny, and they go over to the sequel known as Sleep Doctor, which actually this book gives you like the first 2 chapters. And I cannot wait to see. Overall, I felt like this book was very good. It has very good written characters, very good written scares, very good written suspense, and also it is a very interesting thing in itself, especially when they actually write in the thing that Stephen King saw when Jack walks into the parlor or into the ballroom and he sees all these people dancing and drinking, and when he meets Lloyd and when he meets Mr. Grady, who is pulling Jack's strings and basically trying to get him to become the manager, because they say throughout the whole entire book, you're management material, but we need you to do something before we can officially make you the manager. But all in all, I'm going to give this book a 9. The only reason that I don't give it a 10 is because there were times that it felt like it was kind of lagging on. But other than that, this is a really good book, and I strongly advise you pick this book up. You will not be disappointed. Guys, put in the comments below, what is your favorite part of the Shining book? Was there anything that I missed? Please put in the comments below. I really want to know. And if there's any way that I can make my book reviews any better, please let me know. Put in the comments below. Hit that like button. Unless you're upside down, it's this one, guys. I hope you had a good Valentine's Day, and I hope that you guys have a good school year and a good year. Have a good day, guys.